All right. We're live.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. People are still going to trickle in, but I do have some intro slides. So we have a lot to cover. I'm just going to get started on those. And by the time we get rolling, we should have more folks in here. But for those of you that are here already, welcome. Thanks for spending a little bit of your evening with us today. I'm going to pull up our presentation and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Julie, can you see that okay?
Yeah, that looks fine.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, we are here tonight to talk about saving energy at home. Once again, thanks for joining us. I'll get to intros in a second. This is going to be our agenda. We're going to do some webinar housekeeping. I'll do an overview of the County Marin Sustainability Team in Bayren. Then we're going to jump into MCE with presentation about understanding your electricity bill. I'll talk about energy efficiency 101, and then we'll get into making a plan for your home with HomeIntel. And then I'll talk about incentives, financing programs, and other resources out there, and then we will wrap it up. So, my name is Kellen Dammann. I'm a program coordinator with the County Marin Sustainability Team. Why don't we have all of our speakers introduce themselves, right,
Hi,
just so
I'm
everybody
James
knows who's in the room?
James Tuleya. I'm the senior energy coach for the HomeIntel program run by our company called Home Energy Analytics, or HEA.
And I'm Sebastian Conn. I'm our Principal Community Development Manager at MCE.
Thanks. And Sarah and Julie, do you want to go too?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Thatcher. I work with Kellen and Julie at the County of Marin as a program coordinator.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I work with Sarah and Kellen, and I'll be helping run the tech behind the scenes tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie. And don't go anywhere because you could give us a webinar housekeeping. That'd be great.
Yeah, so we have a couple things for housekeeping. Tonight's program will run for about an hour, and we'll be saving questions for the end. So if you do have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A box at any time during the presentation. You can also upvote on questions that you like. All attendee mics and cameras will remain off. Please use the chat box for general comments. Live captions are available, and you can enable them by clicking on the show captions icon in your toolbar. And lastly, we are recording this program. The video recording, slides, and other materials will be emailed to all registered attendees, and these will also be made available on our website at www.marinsustainability.org. And I'll turn it back to Kellen.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. So a little bit about the sustainability team. We've been around, I think, since 2009 or so. Currently, we're located or housed in the Community Development Agency under planning. We're going to be moving to the Office of the County Executive soon. But you can find out more about our programs at marinsustainability.org. We also post on Facebook and Instagram, and we have a newsletter that we send out quarterly. And you could keep up to speed on events like this and other sustainability topics and programs that become available in the county. A little bit about about Bayren, which is the Bay Area Regional Energy Network that allows us to do a lot of this work in Marin County. So Bayren is a coalition of the 9 Bay Area counties working on energy efficiency programs, and our office represents Marin in that work. And so why everybody's here, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, our electricity and utility bills have been going up over time, way outpacing the pace of inflation. You can see here that just back in 2006, we were around 14 cents a kilowatt hour. And this slide is, old a little bit. I believe we're up to about 41 cents a kilowatt hour now. Same thing with natural gas. It's a little bit peakier, but you can see that same rate of climb. And so I wanted to say this at the top, just some themes to keep in mind for tonight. We really want to show that, why it's a good idea to establish a baseline and know where you're starting from with your home and, starting to tackle your energy bills and saving energy. And then why it's important to create a plan for that, plan of action, and then to take some action. And we're going to show that there's a lot of no and low cost measures that you can do on your home that can add up to a significant change in your bills. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sebastian. And Sebastian, you're going to drive your own slides, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kellen. Give me 1 sec while I pull it up.
Sure.
All right. Are y'all seeing that okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Kellen, Julie, thank you so much for the opportunity to present here this evening. For folks in the audience, my name is Sebastian Conn. I'm our Principal Community Development Manager at MCE. For those of you who may not be as familiar, MCE is the local not-for-profit public utility provider here in Marin County. I've been with MCE for about 6 years and serving in a public affairs role, so really appreciate opportunities to connect with both our partners at the county and also with the community. So today is really less of a presentation about MCE, honestly, and although we do cover MCE's rates at the very end, it's more about giving you the resources and the information you need to better understand your electricity bill and see where you can take some control of that and your energy costs. To Kellen's point on the previous slide, we know that energy bills have been rising and that can feel overwhelming. So my goal tonight is really to help you break things down in a way that makes sense and show you where you have the ability to cut some costs. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. So really just to give some context as to the energy landscape here in Marin, MCE, again, is your local community choice energy provider. And our role is to purchase electricity on behalf of residents and businesses throughout the Bay Area. So we serve Marin, but also Napa, Solano, and Contra Costa County. PG&E still delivers electricity to your home. They maintain the grid, they send the bill, and in other words, MCE manages just the generation portion of your bill, like where the electricity is actually being created. And we're governed by a local board of directors made up of elected officials from across our service area. And really, our focus is providing clean, reliable energy while keeping costs as competitive as possible. So I just thought it was important to help distinguish between the different players in the electricity sector to give you kind of a baseline understanding of who does what. Again, before we get into details tonight, I do want to start by acknowledging that energy affordability is a real concern for our customers. And electricity bills have gone up really across the state for a number of reasons. And we know that has a direct impact on folks' monthly budgets. So our goal today is not just to talk about rates, but it's to help make sense of where there are opportunities for households to manage costs. So we're going to start by breaking down what actually makes up an electricity bill. And for me, I think once you see the different components of the bill, it becomes more clear as to why bills look the way that they do and better understand what's been changing. From there, we'll walk through how to compare rate options and why the rate that you're on can really make a difference depending on when and how your household is using energy. We'll also highlight rebates and incentives available. And finally, we'll share some of the steps that MCE is taking locally to provide bill relief to our customers. So we've talked about affordability and why that issue really hits close to home for a lot of folks, but I think it helps to take a step back and look at what actually makes up an electricity bill. So most people, understandably, are going to focus on that total cost of bill. You see here, that's that $240 amount. But when we break the bill into different parts, it becomes a little bit easier to see what's driving costs and why things have changed in recent years. So the first piece we want to call attention to on the left-hand side, this blue graphic, is the electricity generation. That's the cost of the energy itself, the electricity that you're actually using. That's the portion of the bill that's provided by MCE. The second piece, this orange graphic on the left, is electricity delivery. And that covers the poles, the wires, the grid infrastructure that carry the electricity from the point of generation ultimately to your home or business. And so those charges are set by PG&E, and since they operate and maintain the grid. In recent years, delivery costs have increased for many customers as wildfire mitigation, infrastructure upgrades, and broader system investments have really expanded statewide. And the third category, one of the more, I think, lesser known categories, is the power charge and difference adjustment and some other charges. Power charge and difference adjustment is better known as the PG&E exit fee. So that's something that's tied to long-term electricity contracts that were signed before many customers joined a community choice program like MCE. So that charge has also gone up in recent years and can represent a noticeable portion of the bill. So now that we've talked through what makes up an energy bill, the natural question folks have is, where do customers actually have some control, some agency to control costs? The first, I think, is really simply understanding what you're looking at. When you understand a bill and what the charges represent, I think that gives you a lot of empowerment. Even if some costs are outside of your control, simply having that context gives you a clearer sense of where your money is going each month. Second, I think it's worth taking a closer look at your rate plan, and we're going to get into that shortly. Because the rate that you're on, combined with when and how you use electricity, plays a big role in what you pay each month. Some households use more energy in the evenings, others more in the daytime. Some might have a heat pump, some might have an electric vehicle. So making sure that you understand how those technologies and usage patterns in your home impact monthly costs is really crucial. Third, there are programs and rebates available that can reduce energy use over time. And we're going to talk about ways that you can access those rebates. So again, while you may not be able to control every portion of your bill, there are practical steps that can make a difference, and that's what we'll focus on next. All right, so choosing the right rate for your home. Here, you're going to notice two columns, time of use rates and specialty rates offered. I do want to call attention to time of use. This is what a majority of customers are defaulted into when you pay your electricity bill each month. More likely than not, unless you made a change, you are on time of use. And what that means is that energy is more expensive between the 4 to 9 window each day. So you can think folks are largely coming home from work at this time. They're picking up their kids, maybe they're making dinner. So their electricity usage in the home is spiking between 4 to 9 p.m. And that's called a peak period. So that's when energy is going to be the most expensive. Off-peak hours are outside of that window. So electricity is going to be less expensive outside of that 4 to 9 window. I do want to make sure that folks understand that if you are buying an electric vehicle, you're installing a heat pump, you're thinking about putting in a battery, before you even make those investments, it's so important to understand that there are different rates available for those costs. And I know James is going to talk a little bit later tonight on kind of rates and how when folks are installing new technologies and doing kind of audits in their homes, really should be thinking about the rates that they might be on. So what I will say is, as an MCE customer here in Marin, we do not make the rate changes for you. You do need to call PG&E to do that. But what we're more than happy to do is advise you on what rate might make the most sense. So we do have a call center that folks can call into and can be offered that support. So really encourage folks to call into MCE if you're considering buying an EV, a heat pump, or a battery. All right. And another way to lower your electricity costs is by taking advantage of rebates and incentives that are already available. And a really good place to start is MCE's rebate finder on our website. It's really important to note that this is not just MCE programs that show up here. The rebate finder includes incentives from partners like Marin, along with other state and local programs available in our area. So the goal is to give you a fuller picture of what's out there, not just one piece of it. But just to better understand how the rebate finder works, this is a tool that is intended to help make things simple. You enter a few basic details like your zip code, whether you rent or own, your household size, some general information about your home. And from there, it aggregates and pulls together a bunch of different rebates and incentives that might be available for your particular circumstance. So on the right-hand side here, you can see an example of what that tool looks like after someone enters their information. What's really cool about the tool as well is that each of these listings includes additional information and links to trusted contractors that are able to do this work. So let's say you do want to take advantage of that heat pump water heater rebate on the upper right-hand side here. If you click learn more, it links to contractors who are available to do that work in your area. So the big picture here is about convenience. It's instead of searching multiple websites for all the available rebates, incentives that might be out there, it puts it all in one place for the customer. All right. As I mentioned, less of a presentation about MCE, but I do want to call out our proposed rate reduction and ways that we're looking to address affordability head on at MCE. So really important is that we have not raised our rates, our general rates at MCE since 2023. So that's 3 years for the average residential customer without an increase on the portion of the bill that we actually control locally. But that being said, we know that customers are still seeing total costs be higher on their electricity bill than they were 3 years ago. A big part of that comes from things that are outside of MCE's control directly. We talked a little bit about the transmission and delivery rates being more expensive than they were in previous years, as well as the PG&E exit fee. But I think what's happening right now at MCE in response to some of those affordability concerns, our board's considering a rate reduction along with a temporary credit through the end of the year for customers. So for the average residential customer, our generation rates would be about $3 lower than PG&E's. And that comparison is specifically on the generation side of things. That's the part that we manage. Once you factor in the PG&E exit fees, the total bill still comes out for the average customer to be about $18 higher. So again, we don't control that portion of the bill. But we are actively involved in some legislative conversations at the state level on reforming that. I think when we think about all of this information, it's important to consider what customers receive in return. So even though we're coming in about $3 lower on the generation side of things, our standard service at MCE provides about twice the amount of renewable energy content compared to PG&E's. So we know that energy rates across California have been really volatile over the past few years. And one of the things that we are aiming to do at MCE is to provide some stability and really local oversight over the portion of the bill that we can influence. So really quickly, just another quick area where we're providing bill relief is what we call our MCE CARES credit. This is a direct monthly credit that folks can receive that are income qualified. So folks that are in an income qualified household receive a $20 credit on their electricity bill each month. And eligible small businesses can receive a $25 credit. So it may not sound dramatic on its own, but over time, I think that consistent credit really makes a meaningful difference in folks' monthly expenses. This is a program that was initially made up in 2024 with a $5 million decision to fund the program by our local board of directors. And that's important because it's not state dollars, it's locally governed dollars that MCE is choosing to reinvest into the community for a concern affordability that we know is top of mind. So that program in 2024 saw really strong interest and filled quickly, and it's currently closed to new applicants. But looking ahead, our board is considering renewing that funding and even doubling it to a $10 million amount. So this is part of our board's budgeting process, and we'll know about that towards the end of this month. Our new fiscal year starts April 1st. So there could be additional funding on the way in terms of bill credits for folks that need it the most. So I do want to close with just a few key takeaways tonight. Check your rate plan. It's one of the biggest drivers of your bill, and not every household uses energy the same way. So while you might be on a time of use rate, again, if you have those different electric options, there's other rates that could be available to you that could make your bill more affordable. Second, there's programs available right now that are designed to lower usage and improve comfort. These are rebates for things like energy efficiency upgrades. And you can find all of those on the rebate finder tool that we covered. And third, we recognize that energy affordability is a real concern. And that's why it's important to consider that community choice programs like MCE are governed locally and are responsive to community needs. And I think you saw some of that tonight in the ways that we're considering rate reductions and affordability options for our customers. So that's it for the presentation. Happy to take questions in the Q&A, and I know we have some time at the end for questions as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Sebastian. And yeah, thanks for plugging the Q&A box. So yeah, feel free to enter your questions there, and Sebastian can take them as they come in as we move along with the rest of the material tonight. So I'm going to take it back. Great. So just a little bit about energy efficiency. Why should we care about energy efficiency? I guess the most obvious answer is we want lower energy bills, utility bills for gas and electric. But another thing that comes along with that is reducing greenhouse gas emissions, being a responsible steward for this shared resource of the grid and energy production, helping limit brownouts. I'm old enough to remember when those were a bigger thing. When actually thinking about your own home, when you're looking at changing appliances from gas to electric, you can actually avoid or help avoid panel upgrades if you're using more efficient appliances in your home currently. And then, of course, there are added benefits to energy efficiency. If you have a properly insulated and air-sealed home, you're going to be way more comfortable in the winter and summer when temperatures spike. And there are also significant benefits for your indoor air quality when you're removing gas appliances from your home. And also, doing that air sealing with your duct system, you can avoid bringing in that dirty air from your leaky ducts, if they exist in your attic or crawl space, into your conditioned space. So that's another thing that we like to point out, that are these ancillary benefits that come along with, doing something maybe a little selfish or whatever of, upgrading your home because you want to save on your energy bill, but there's also some other benefits that come along with that. Energy efficiency loading order. So really the most cost-effective things to do are the cheapest. So if you look at this list here, going from top to bottom, it starts to get more expensive the lower you go. So really we encourage people to do the cheap things first, like LED light bulbs, power strips, faucet aerators, and then simple weather stripping. By the way, we're going to have a survey after our presentation today, and if you complete the survey, we're going to be raffling off a couple smart power strips. So just a quick plug for that. Building shell upgrades. I mentioned air sealing and insulation earlier. That's something you should think about, after that low-hanging fruit. And then we get into the mechanical upgrades, like upgrading your furnace, water heating, and then moving into windows, solar, battery backup, EVs, and the whole 9 yards. So getting back to our themes, making a plan is really important and really instructive and helpful when people are, especially if they don't know where to start. So we're going to start this conversation about energy audits with James Tuleya with HomeIntel. I also just want to point out that we have an energy audits page on our website, which also has information on private companies that are known as concierge services that really focus on helping people when they're electrifying their home. So I did want to just make a plug for that, and we have more information on our website, but we're not going to get into the concierge services tonight. So, James, I'm going to drive your slides, so we're going to move ahead.
Great, thanks. Do you thanks everybody for attending, and I'm James Tuleya again with the HomeIntel program, and I work for a company called Home Energy Analytics, and we do this under contract to PG&E, but it's using public purpose program dollars that all of us pay on our bills. So it's funded that way. And the sign up is myhome.hea.com. Next. So just a little background, you can see I'm not going to get into the details. Home Energy Analytics has been doing energy programs using the Home Energy Analytics software for over 15 years now, and 8.5 years with PG&E. It consists of software that analyzes the energy usage that I'll talk about a little bit more, plus what we call energy coaches like me that help people one-on-one via email, phone, or Zoom, and to help people understand what they can do and answer questions over time. Next. So as Kellen was talking about before, we're trying to understand what we can do about bills that have been going higher. Anybody who's looking to electrify, that's also a challenge. And how do you get that under control? How do you get confidence about what to do? Next. So with our program, which is a free program, we don't charge anything and we don't sell anything because, as I said, we're funded through public purpose fees on all of our bills, the same way that Bay Rent is funded, actually. And our program is available to PG&E customers, anybody who gets a PG&E bill, including MCE customers. We run this program all across PG&E territory. Uh, Anybody who has their own bill. If some people had just moved into a place, a home, and they haven't been there 12 months, we have to wait till we get 12 months of data to see all the seasonality. That's really the only restriction. But it's important to know that we can be very helpful. Our program can be very helpful to not only homeowners, but renters also. And one reason for that, key reason, is that we're looking at all the energy use in the home, hour by hour electric data, daily gas data, the monthly billing and usage data, as well as taking into account local weather data. And the average savings for our clients, and this can vary widely depending on the home and the bills and how active someone is at doing something about it, but the average savings are $350 a year, and that can be helpful. And some much more than that. We've helped over 90,000 homes, and what you get is a complete analysis of, as I said, all the energy use in the home. That helps us find a lot more low-hanging fruit that Kellen was talking about before, things that can be done because we can spot anything that might be happening in the home because we're looking at all the data, all the hourly usage and daily gas usage. And we do this all remotely. We don't have to go to a home to figure this out. So it's technically a remote energy audit. So we do that online energy analysis, provide custom advice on how to save, ways to save that are cost effective, low or no cost, or if we're going to suggest something that costs money, like replacing an appliance, we would only do that if it would pay for itself. We also have some foundational analysis that helps people plan to electrify. And there's both online tools to help as well as live person energy coaches like me that can help. So it's a lot of assistance that's not available in most other places, that's very detailed based on a customized analysis for your own home. So there's lots of reports and we track the usage and analysis over time. So when you take action and do things, we can help you check your progress over time and keep moving in the direction of lower and lower bills. Next. So the process, it really is based on empowering you to help you understand all of your energy use related to the home and its systems, major things and minor things, things outside like lights or a pool or a hot tub, all your stuff, and the behavior of all the occupants in the home, your family doing different things like leaving the lights on or um, the heater on somewhere. So we're trying to help you understand your energy use, which really helps you understand what you can do about it once you understand it. So it's an investigative process based on a lot of analytics related to all that data that's tracked at your smart meter. And we help find and prioritize the energy waste areas and guide you toward where are the biggest actions that are most cost effective or most savings bang for the buck for you and help you see how you're doing over time. Next. We do that, as I said before, with a lot of data. It's essentially business intelligence for your home energy data. Looking at all that data, we break it into different energy usage categories and look at it from a usage perspective, a cost perspective, and help you figure out, well, where does it look like you're not doing as well compared to similar homes, category by category. And it's uh, we define similar homes differently depending on the category because there's different things that matter. Like in our always on gas category, that's mostly water heating, and it can be some cooking and clothes drying, but that's all occupancy based. So there's another PG&E program that looks at similar homes based on the whole home, but a lot of people don't know where to start. But our program breaks things out into these different categories so you know which category, one or two categories that you've got the opportunity to save. Next. In addition to that, because we're looking at all the gas use in the home, and we can break it into here's how much you're using for your home heating from furnaces and or fireplaces, that kind of thing, and separate that from the gas used, if at all, for gas water heating. We can do an electrification analysis to help you understand basic information if you are looking to plan to electrify those things over time. And along with that, that electrification analysis looks at the rate plan that you're on, and if you electrify one or more of the devices in your home, our analysis can help you point you to a better rate plan or confirm that you're on the right rate plan. And more broadly, for all clients of our program, as Sebastian was saying, just like PG&E does a rate analysis, we do a rate analysis with the same data because we're getting the data from PG&E on the electric side, hour by hour. We can tell you what rate plan is better. And one thing to keep in mind about rate analyses, both PG&E's and ours, is that it helps to have one of our HomeIntel energy coaches to interpret those rate analyses, because a key limitation of when you look at that online at pge.com, that it's only looking backwards at your historical data, not what you might be changing or buying in the future, like an EV. Just like Sebastian said, there's things that if something happens in your home, you get an EV or you get a heat pump, water heater, or other things, or if you reduce energy use, the rate analysis needs some interpretation. So we can help guide people toward what is the best rate plan based on the analysis, plus interpreting it, knowing your detailed energy use breakdown, and by talking to you. The other thing Kellen mentioned about trying to avoid a panel upgrade. We also do a panel analysis to help people understand how much more power capacity they have if they want to electrify, so we can help avoid service upgrades and panel upgrades that can save a lot of money. In addition to back to the energy efficiency, some of the more low-hanging fruit, for example, to add to what Kellen said, some of the most cost-effective or best bang for the buck, we can help guide people toward whether or not you should be setting your thermostat differently, whether it's a gas furnace or a heat pump. There's different guidance on how to operate that most efficiently and maintain your comfort. Another low-hanging fruit is a lot of people, most people actually, are overheating their hot water, and just turning the temperature down to as low as it can go, but everybody's still happy, rather than overheating it and cooling it back down. That saves a lot of gas or electricity depending on your water heater, and it doesn't cost you a thing to turn the temperature down. It's all savings. So that's a really easy, very common way to save. Our analysis also can help people find things that they don't realize are going on, like a client of mine, their pool pump controller stopped working, and the system defaulted to running a pool pump 12 hours a day. It cost her an extra $2,200 a year. Someone left a baseboard heater on in the sunroom. It's always warm in the sunroom, but we can find these kinds of things because we're looking at all the analysis in the home, all the energy use in the home. So you sign up for our free program, we can help you figure out, well, why is your bill so high? And then what you can do about it. Next. So thanks. Happy to help. Sign up at that link there. And if you have any questions, you can contact me via email or phone. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, James. I think we're running a little bit low on time. So I have a couple more things to get through, but I might go a little quickly. Just as a reminder, we're going to be sending out all these materials, and you can always follow up with me if you have any questions about anything we presented on today. So I've used HomeIntel before for an apartment I lived in. I thought it was great. I really loved the level of detail, and they were able to recommend things to me that I hadn't thought of. And I recommend it to most people I talk to. So, and that was as a renter, which is great. And then, by the way, these things that we've been talking about so far, LED light bulbs, low-hanging fruit, a lot of them are accessible if you're renting your home or in an apartment, or if you own your home. I'm going to get into a couple programs now that are specific for single-family homes. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and in the theme of making a plan for your home, is the Home Energy Score program. So similar to HomeIntel, it's about establishing that baseline and learning more about your home. But where it differs is that this is an in-person energy assessment done by a home energy score assessor. Home energy score assessors in the Bay Area, they tend to be energy raters, contractors, home inspectors that work with realtors. So they're the ones that are going out, and this is just something that they've added into their business that they offer homeowners. There is a $250 rebate through BayREN for each home energy score done in Marin County and other jurisdictions in the Bay Area. And we like to message it as like a miles per gallon for your home. It's really looking at the home features and not as much as the behavioral stuff that you'll get from HomeIntel. So really and the reason that a lot of home inspectors offer it is because they're taking a lot of the same information that they would be taking for a home inspection. So they're measuring the walls, they're seeing what the insulation levels are like. They're taking a look at the, your HVAC and other mechanical appliances. and they put all that information to a software that spits out this 1 to 10 number that indicates how efficient a home is compared to similar sized homes around the country. Because this was developed by the Department of Energy, and it's kind of available, and it takes a database from all over the country. So this is what your report looks like from Home Energy Score. And I didn't realize this was animated. Okay. So it gives the basic home information, your current score, and what you could get to with some recommended improvements, your estimated energy cost savings, which was a recent addition to this program, which I think is really valuable. And this is the backside of it with, basically everyone that goes through this program gets that 1 to 10 score and also this custom recommendation sheet. And we like to say that it's like a roadmap for doing improvements to your home. So, next steps to take action, if there's any rebate and tax credit information or that could be applied to certain projects that are recommended for your home, current condition and recommendations. And yeah, so that's Home Energy Score. And then kind of going back to the low-hanging fruit, I'm just going to share a couple kind of quick and easy projects you can do. Simple weather stripping. You can, go to Home Depot and get some weather stripping or caulking, or you can hire a handyman. LED light bulbs we've touched on a little bit, and smart power strips. And again, we're going to raffle off a smart power strip, so please stick around and fill out that survey at the end of the webinar. And speaking of this low-hanging fruit, you don't actually have to go out and buy that stuff. There is a free through Marin and Rising Sun Center for Opportunity, where they will send you a kit in the mail that has LED light bulbs, a smart power strip, or smart plugs, faucet aerators, low flow shower heads, and they just added weather stripping foam tape. And that's something that you can sign up for now. The program runs in the summer, so they'll, if you sign up now, they will send your kit to your door in a couple of months. Another really great thing about that program is that they hire local college and high school age youth to run the program. So it's a great way to get, basically build our young workforce and get their foot in the door with sustainability work. Now I'm going to talk about insulation air sealing. This is very important. A lot of homes in Marin were built as summer homes back in the day, and obviously built before some of our rigid energy standards that exist now. I really encourage everybody to go take a look in your attic and see if you even have insulation. Some people don't, or they haven't looked in there in a while. And it's really one of the more cost-effective and beneficial projects that you can do for your home, because you're going to save energy from your HVAC system, but you're also going to feel that added comfort in the summer and winter. I like to use this metaphor of a sweater and a windbreaker when talking about insulation and air sealing. So your insulation is going to help with that radiant heat loss, similar to like a wool sweater. But what happens when you wear a wool sweater outside on a windy day? You feel the wind go through you, right? So that's why you can layer up with a windbreaker, and then you get the benefit of both, because insulation helps with that radiant heat transfer, but heat can also transfer through the air. So you want to make sure that your home is, like a cooler, basically, where it's not super air leaky and also well insulated. Windows, I do want to talk about Windows because it comes up a lot. And I took some information down from energy.gov, and I provided the links in here. But basically, replacing Windows can be an expensive affair, and a lot of people do them for aesthetic reasons. And they also blame some of the comfort issues in their home solely on the windows without looking at air sealing and insulation. But so if your windows are in good condition, there are things you can do that might be a little bit more cost effective when it comes to your utility bills, and that's checking for existing air leaks in the windows. You can caulk and weather strip around windows. You can also add window coverings and awnings. And I do want to note here that sometimes heat gained can be good in the winter. So you're not going to want to put window film on without addressing that. And every every home is going to be different based on their orientation to the sun and what's going on in it. So moving on to incentive and financing programs to help pay for some of these single family home upgrades. I just want to have a note on incentive programs. These things come and go. We've seen that a lot over the past year with the statewide tech Clean California rebate coming and going. Recently just ran out of funding for the HERO program. The Inflation Reduction Act, that funding went away with the last spending bill that was passed in the summer, which is unfortunate. So a good way to stay on top of that and to see what's currently available is to check those resources like MCE's Rebate Finder. There's also the Switches On that provides a similar thing. We've had some anecdotal evidence from folks or just anecdotal feedback that MCE's is a little bit better for Marin folks because it's more local. There are some existing there are some rebate programs that are still going on right now. The Clean Heat program through the Air District is one. If you're replacing a wood burning device and putting in a heat pump, pretty good size rebate here, $3,000 to $13,000. The main thing to keep in mind for the Clean Heat program is you need to apply for it before, and you need to apply to the Air District and get the go-ahead before starting any work. So they will not fund a retroactive project. Energy Smart Homes is through PG&E, and that's for homes that are completely electrifying. We recommend that program to folks that maybe have one or two appliances left if they want to fully electrify their homes. And that one goes up to $6,500, which is pretty good. And then MCE's heat pump water heater incentive program that Sebastian mentioned. So that's it. That's as far as I know. And we try to stay on top of this stuff for everybody. I'd also encourage you to sign up to our newsletter that we only send out once a quarter because we give rebate program updates. Because again, they come and go, and as soon as they run out of funding, they're gone. So it's a good way to stay on top of that by signing up for our newsletter, but also keeping some of these resources in mind. Moving on to financing. Go Green Financing has been around for a while. It's a statewide program. The loans can go up to $50,000 and they have competitive rates. Basically, it's designed to, buy down some of that interest rate to make energy efficiency projects more affordable for Californians. You can also use the loan to finance other home improvements, which is pretty great. And then this one is based on this one from Habitat for Humanity, Greater SF area. They have a home rehab loan program for low-income residents. I like to talk about this one because the terms are fantastic. It's basically a 0% loan that you can pay as you want over 30 years or defer it to when you sell the home. And it's so great it's currently waitlisted. But you can include energy efficiency improvements, changing out your HVAC system, water heating, insulation, but it also covers any home improvement you can think of, new roof, mold remediation, kind of everything. Okay, and then if you make under 120% area median income in Marin and you're in a single family home, there are a couple programs available to you that deeply subsidize energy efficiency work. One of those is through MCE and the other one is through Bayren. And so what we do is we encourage people to fill out our interest form. That goes to me. And then based on your responses, I let you know which one you qualify for. So MCE's Home Energy Savings Program, their income cap, and I have a slide coming up that shows the income levels of who qualifies. Theirs goes up to 400% federal poverty line, which is about $63,000 a year for a one-person household. And they can provide attic insulation and some weatherization, and that is a no-cost program. So if you qualify for that and you live in a single family home, I'd really encourage you to check it out. Bayren's program goes up to 120% area median income, which is around $162,000 a year for one person household, and also provides attic insulation, air sealing, weatherization. Bayron's program also can fix your ducts or replace them if they're in terrible condition. And the way that the funding works for that, or the way the payment works for that, is that for homes that qualify, there is just a up to $1,000 copay. So if you qualify for the program and you're interested in getting that work done, you won't pay more than $1,000. Here are the income levels. I wanted to include these. Both of these are gross annual income, and I believe MCE's is self-attested. Bayron's, they will want to look at your tax return from last year. So just be aware of that. This is more on the ease home. I'll skip this slide, but basically just shows the measures that you can qualify for. You need to do a base measure, which is attic insulation or duct sealing, to kind of unlock some of the other work that can get done. But yeah, if you're interested in this program, please contact me, and I have lots of information I can share about it. And this is just the steps of the process you'd see if you qualify. There's a site visit component to the Ease Home program. So somebody would come out and build a scope of work with you. And if you decide to move ahead, they'll schedule a contractor that's under the program to come out and do the work. So I think we're doing, yeah, we got about 9 minutes. So yeah, just to wrap up, we're going to be doing another webinar all about heat pumps on July 15th. Resilient Neighborhoods is a great program. They basically offer these free workshops that cover energy, water, waste saving strategies. They have new teams starting on March 25th and April 2nd. Our website has a lot of information on a lot of what you just heard tonight, but also other programs. I'd encourage folks to check that out. If you're interested in induction cooking, the Marin County Libraries offer a loaner program for induction cooking hobs, so you can test it out and see how it works and see if you like it before you actually make that investment in induction cooking if you're interested in that. And just a plug for our webinar survey, we're going to give away 2 smart plugs to folks that answer that survey. So I know that was a lot of information. I see folks putting stuff in the Q&A now. But yeah, before we get to Q&A, I just want to thank our speakers, James and Sebastian, for coming out and sharing that great information. And yeah, let's take a look at the Q&A. Actually, no, those were chats.
You have to ask if there's some live ones because there's not anything in the Q&A box.
Yeah, there are no questions. Did we cover everything? Does somebody want to put just a question in there to make sure it works? Oh, no. Yeah, somebody said, James at HEA is super helpful. I agree.
I didn't pay them for that.
It was an anonymous attendee too. How do we know it wasn't James?
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm signed in as James. You would see my name there.
I'm joking.
I think I am helpful. So.
Well, again, we're going to be sending out the slides, and once we get the webinar on the county YouTube page, we'll send that out as well. But yeah, if you have any questions, our contact information is in the slides, so feel free to reach out. Ooh, we have a raised hand. Julie, I don't think we're allowed to, I don't think Zoom's going to let us take her off mute, right?
Kellen, I can actually allow folks to talk if that's okay.
Yeah, if you guys
I
want to
can.
talk, go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I see that.
I wanted to know how noisy is a heat pump? I worry about it being outside in my yard and making a lot of noise on my house and the house that's next door. echoing around?
Yeah, that's a good question. We will cover that more on our heat pump webinar, but I can tell you just from what I know that each unit has a decibel rating. But you do bring a good point. A lot of cities are, they have noise ordinances and they will go out and measure them. So it is just good to keep in mind, where that condensing unit is placed. Um, and yeah, I do know too that they're getting better at, reducing the noise just as demand has gone up for heat pumps. A lot of manufacturers are working on that. And there are also some kind of aftermarket things. There's this thing called a zombie box that can go around a heat pump that dampens the noise if it's, that much of an issue. Um, yeah, James,
Keep
you
in
were probably,
mind, keep in mind a heat pump's just a two-way air conditioner that runs the other direction in the winter to heat your home. And so essentially think of it like an air conditioner, and that outdoor fan will make some noise. And as Kellen said, some make more noise than others. So make sure you get the specification sheets or look at them online from a manufacturer's website or get them from the contractors that are giving you quotes. And look for the decibel levels, the dB levels in there, and generally you want the lower ones. That's quieter. Um, but there's not any major issues typically, but it's something to check for anything that you're looking to buy.
yeah, and I would add too, Sita, if you know anybody who's installed one, go ask if you can check it out. I tell this to a lot of people that your like friends and neighbors are probably a better resource than I am for, learning about like how it works in a home and how they experience it, especially when it comes to a heat pump or a heat pump water heater. So yeah, if you know anyone who's already installed one, I'd reach out to them.
I would say too, Kellen, you made a plug for Resilient Neighborhoods earlier, which
Mhm.
is great. CETA, if you haven't enrolled in that program, it could be a good way to meet some folks that have done these energy efficiency upgrades. And then also maybe the Green Change Network that Fabrice Florin helps manage here in Marin could be a good opportunity for you to connect with folks that have similar interests and might have installed these technologies too.
Yeah, thanks for adding. I'm going to put green change in the chat.
I'll also throw in here that the Marin Green Home Tour happens every year. It's scheduled for August 23rd this year, and that's an opportunity to see these upgrades in person. There are a number of hosts who open up their door, their homes, and you get to check out the upgrades that they've made, the type, what their experience was, who they used, what heat pump or other interesting upgrades they've invested in. So you can always ask us about that, and we'll certainly share that information once it's live.
Great. We have like 2 minutes if there's any other questions. I'll put that heat pump webinar into the chat too.
As I mentioned before, you're trying to answer the question, why is my bill so high? And that's what we do at HomeIntel. So happy to help. Doesn't cost you a thing. We don't sell anything. You've already paid for it through the public purpose program fees. So happy to help.
Great. Well, I think we can wrap. Yeah, to everybody who attended, thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us. Thank you, James Tuleya with HomeIntel and Sebastian Conn with MCE. Thank you, Julie, for running tech, and thanks, Sarah, for joining us. All right, everybody, go have a great dinner and have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, James. Thanks for organizing, county team.
Thank you.
Bye.